Welcome to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters. Money on Tap is where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We take a look at all sides of the issues, bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table. My name is Seth Krussman, and I'm joined here once again with Benjamin Brayshaw and John Ryder. How are you guys today?
Good morning, Seth. Good morning, John.
Doing well. Good morning, everybody.
Wonderful news. Everybody's in the room. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. You can also find us at Facebook /3D Investing. Today, we are going to dive into a topic that is important for everyone within audible distance of my voice.
That would be us too then, because we're within the distance there, Seth.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
If you can, pay attention to what we're talking about today. You may not think it's relevant to you, or may not think that, it's going to happen to you. You may not think it's going to happen for a long time, but let me tell you this. It is going to happen, and the only problem is you don't know when.
Seth, the suspense is killing me. What are we talking about here?
Well, John, if it's killing you, then we need to talk as soon as possible, because you need to be prepared for what's on the horizon.
Oh, no.
Folks, today we're going to explore a topic that it really needs to be addressed now. And you may be newly married, 22 years old. You may be single and 50 years old. You may have just celebrated your 50th wedding anniversary, but you need to take a serious look at legacy planning. And what are the things that you need to be looking at when you're no longer here? How can you help your family, your friends, charities that you care about? So we've got a lot to get to today. But before we do, it is time for Money in the News.
I just want to say first, your jokes really stink. It's killing me. Legacy planning? Come on. Way too...
Hey, Ben, if you want to write the jokes, you're welcome to. Ben can write the jokes.
Gosh, where's Eric when we need him? Money in the News.
Okay, so let's get to it. Let's get to it. Okay. So when it comes to money, we talk to people about a lot of different things. And Ben, when we ask people about one of the areas where people think they're overspending, I think 9 times out of 10 people say what? Where are they overspending?
Oh, I don't know. Everywhere?
Ben, eating out. Eating out. That's right. So people often feel pretty guilty about eating out too much, and truth be told, it's expensive to eat out.
They pay their financial advisors too much. That's typically what we.
that sometimes is the case too. But the fact is, when we go through budgets, a lot of times we find that there's just one area where people just kind of feel kind of guilty about, and they say, I know I should be doing less of this, should be doing less of that. So we wanted to highlight story number 1 today is a couple that enjoys Texas Roadhouse so much that they train themselves to eat almost nothing else day or night. So this couple from, where are they? They're from Kansas. And Ron and Diana Watson, this is from the newspaper here, not sure which one, but it says that some people like to eat the same food for dinner twice a week. Ron and Diana Watson don't have those concerns. When the couple walks into the Texas Roadhouse in Wichita each day between 3 and 5 p.m., the servers immediately notify the kitchen to start their dinners. With rare exception, the Watsons have ordered the same meal 6 days a week for 15 years. Wow.
Unbelievable.
Wow. So
unbelievable.
They have trained themselves to eat the same meal all the time. He gets barbecue chicken. She opts for the roadkill steak. Okay, so the deal is that this is the only place where they really eat. She has a protein shake in the morning. He has coffee. And these guys are creatures of habit.
No, he doesn't even have coffee.
He doesn't even have coffee.
No, yeah, he's foregone that, and he has water with lemon.
Okay, and so
Yeah.
here's what they like about it. It really simplifies our life. Many people are out there washing dishes, shopping at the grocery stores. We do none of that. Now there are some exceptions. I mean, this is basically 7 days a week that they do this. They've been married for 20 years. They have 2 sons. We really enjoy eating there, and I enjoy my wife not having to cook, said Ron Watson, adding that she used to do all of the cooking, though she found it tiresome and inefficient.
Oh gosh, I don't know. That sounds like a nice way to say, honey.
You're not a good cook.
You tried, and that's okay. At least that's the way I would take it if Kira started telling me like, we need to start eating out more.
Yeah, well, it's so funny because they say they don't get bored at all. They like the music, they like the dancing at the Texas Roadhouse, and I know whatever it's going to be, it's going to be good. They spend about $22 a day on their 2 meals, including tip. The 10% veterans discount cuts the dining costs, which add up to about $540 a month for the couple. So, I don't know, guys. That doesn't sound like a terrible food budget for the month, $540, but...
Well, I mean, I think it all comes down to what do you want? If if $500 brings happiness and joy and, peace to your life, like, if your wife's a really bad cook, just say, I'd really like eating out. I mean, I think there's a there's a life lesson there that we can learn from a little bit.
And there are 2 sides of the coin here, because I noticed that it says once in 2014, he suffered a heart attack at the Texas Roadhouse while eating his dinner.
Oh, no.
And he took 2 days off while in the hospital, and his wife picked up the food from the Texas Roadhouse on those days to sneak it into the hospital room.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, I guess. Did she bring him like a bloomin' onion? I guess that's Outback. Okay, so they do have some exceptions when they don't go.
No butter or seasoning on her meal.
No, she's very, very selective.
Very selective.
They are often asked if they ever get a craving for something different like pizza or Chinese food. Their answer, not really. The only time the Watsons cook is on Christmas Day. And that's because most restaurants are closed on Christmas. They make a full meal of turkey, ham, sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes, gravy, and macaroni and cheese. Even before their Texas Roadhouse ritual started, the Watsons ate out most of the time at places including other steakhouses, Italian restaurants, and fast food joints. But they kind of like the predictability of knowing what they're doing, when they're doing it, and he said that it kind of opens up his mind space a little bit to think on other things as opposed to what am I going to order and what am I going to buy at the grocery store. So anyways, a very interesting couple. I'm not sure I'd recommend this to any of our listeners, but...
Well, it took them some training. Like you said, they trained themselves to do this. Sounds like they're taking into account the intermittent fasting, right, which is so popular right now in people's diet craze, or call it whatever you want. But there was also a correction here that an earlier version of the story was misstated, that Diana's order, where she takes her steak plain with no cheese. We want to make sure that people understand that. And also that her son, Clint, was adopted. He is not.
Yes, okay. So I'm glad for those clarifications.
Well, I think when you look at, I don't know about you guys, but my life, I mean, I have kind of
your thing.
My habitual things that I do all the time. I make my coffee the same way. I mean, John, there's a lot
Zuckerberg with his wardrobe, right? Wears the T-shirt and the jeans
because he doesn't want to have to worry about deciding what to wear every day.
Right. I mean, right. There's parts of it
too many other things to think about. Yeah, too many other things to think about than what am I going to wear.
We should do the same show every week. That way we don't have to think about it.
There we go. Hey, so story...
We kind of do a little bit of Groundhog Day here.
There is some of that. That's for sure. All right, story number 2. Okay, so you guys, what has been in the news a lot lately is this big college admissions scandal.
I love it.
It is fodder for talk show hosts across the world. And just it's just a kind of a interesting story. So obviously everyone in the sound of my voice knows all about the actresses and actors and CEOs of companies that are paying off to get their kids into college. And I mean, so many stories, and you hear, and we're just hearing the beginning of this right now.
Is anyone surprised? I mean, I'm not surprised. None of this whatsoever at all surprises me that this is going on.
It's just when it hits the light of day. It's just like, really? You paid $500,000 to get your kid into Harvard?
Buy a building for them, and they'll let you in.
But it's even more than that, Ben. It's more than that, because there's a lot of cheating around it. So this guy, Michael Singer, right?
I'm not saying it's right. I mean, this is totally wrong.
But it's more than just paying off an institution to get into the institution. It has to do with paying a guy, Michael Singer, who has an assistant, who goes and takes SAT tests for high school students and figures out how to get the students the score they need to get to where they need to go. He would charge them $10,000 a test. And sometimes little Johnny or Sarah, whoever was taking the test, they took their first SAT score. It was terrible, off the charts. So they pay this guy $10,000 to take a test. And of course, he can't go from the kids getting a terrible failing grade to top of the class so I can get to Harvard. He has to take the test 3 or 4 times and just put some space in between, charging him $10,000 a test. So this guy, the guy that was taking the tests, brilliant Harvard grad, and he had the ability to really pretty much score wherever he needed to score. So he would just go in, and he would know
at will score.
At will score. He'd say, "Okay,
wow.
we need an 1100. Here you go," and he would get within just a few points of that every time. And so he didn't want to arouse suspicion for this kid going from, flunking out to like top of his class valedictorian. And so he kind of did that. And that's what amazes me. I can understand the paying off the colleges, and I'm sure that's happened for years, but to actually go in and actually to change SAT scores, sometimes they would have these testing centers, SAT testing centers, and at that testing center, they would have a proctor, but the proctor was in on the game, and he would go and change answers before it got submitted, just to make sure that it all would work out, that little Johnny could get into Harvard.
Oh.
Yeah. So
yeah, there's all sorts of ways to make money out there, folks. If you're looking for a side hustle, this is not what we're advocating, by the way.
I wonder if there's I wonder how much IRS fraud there probably is in some of this stuff.
Oh, my goodness.
This
is just the tip of
I hadn't even thought about that. But, well, hold on a second. The thing about this whole scenario, okay, is that these people are so wealthy that, like, I don't understand. Is it just that they wanted to get their kid into Harvard or Yale specifically, and they couldn't get in? Because I don't understand
why they couldn't get in some of these kids.
Why? I mean, Harvard and Yale, these places want these celebrities. They want them there. So I don't understand why they can't just say, hey, listen, we're going to pay full freight, and we're going to do that for 25 years.
I would like to say that there's some educational veracity to these guys at the head of these institutions where we're not just taking money to get people in. I'd like to say that.
No, I don't remember it in this article, but I remember when this just came out and I was taking a look at it. One of the issues that they were discussing was this loophole where the kid is applying, or student is applying to this college, and then beside that, the parents are donating along, and there's a tax break there for the parents as well to donate during that corridor, right?
Yeah.
And so they're looking at closing that out because of the influence that it has over those applications. One of the things that, as I was reading through this, I thought was really interesting was that there's the helicopter parent that we're all kind of familiar with. Maybe we see them or we've been called one ourselves.
John.
Right?
God bless you, Ben.
Sorry. Excuse me.
But John's more of like a helicopter parent for all of us here at Brayshaw Financial. He's just taking such good care of Ben and I. And we appreciate that. Don't stop.
Hey.
But the snowplow parent is what they're terming this as.
Yeah, this is an article from the New York Times, and it's entitled "How Parents Are Robbing Their Children of Adulthood." Talks about this lady named Nicole Eisenberg. Her older son wanted to be a star of the stage since he was a toddler, she said. He took voice, dance, and drama lessons and attended the renowned Stage Door Manor summer camp for half a dozen years. But she was anxious that might not be enough to get him into the best performing arts programs. Maybe he wasn't that good. So she and several others in her Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, affluent suburb in Detroit area. She helped them start a charity with friends that raised more than $250,000 over 4 years. The moms, 4 or 5 moms, did it together. We started it. We helped. But we did not do it for them, Ms. Eisenberg said. Do we ask for sponsors for them? Yes. Do we ask for money for them? Yes. But they had to do the work. So basically, she's kind of snow plowing the way for her kid to get where he needed to get. But there's so much talk about that, Seth. So much talk about snowplow parenting and how dangerous that can be.
Well, it's funny about the snowplow. It's like I'm kind of happy the snowplows arrived or the awareness of the snowplow, because I can say to my kids, like, at least I'm not the snowplow parent.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Ben, I don't know if you see yourself as the helicopter parent. Now, that's kind of interesting, too. Like you're saying, Seth, kind of a whole different contrast there. Helicopter parent is like hovering over the kids all the time.
Right. Hey, making sure that was it little Johnny and Sarah?
Yes.
Making sure that, that they don't get hurt on the playground.
Yes.
Or do something that, potentially might, it might hurt them, or somebody might snatch them off the street, that kind of a awareness, or even following that child now with their cell phones into every activity that they might be doing, and trying to keep them from harm's way. Really, that's the helicopter parent. But the snowplow parent is going that extra mile in clearing out any obstacle that they might have, to the extent that what was it? The example here of their child being at Harvard or Stanford, freshman at Stanford, and setting up play dates with people from their dorm room.
Oh, gosh.
Or complained to their child's employers when an internship leads to a job or doesn't lead to a job. Like, they just don't stop. They're parenting adults. I mean, over-parenting adults, right?
Well, it's kind of weird because they'll do anything just to help their kids, which I think all of us would want to do a lot to help our kids. But it's just kind of this offloading of responsibilities of the kid and putting it on the parents' lap there. And there's a doctor out there, Dr. Levine. She's a psychologist, and she regularly sees college freshmen who have had to come home from Emory or Brown because they don't have the minimal kinds of adult skills that one needs to be in college. So she was saying that one came home because there was a rat in the dorm room. Now, I think my daughter might come home if there's a rat in her dorm room too. Some didn't like their roommates. Others said it was way too much work and they had never learned independent study skills. One did like to eat food with sauce.
That was a good one.
Oh, isn't that great? Her whole life, her parents had helped her avoid sauce, calling friends before going to their houses for dinner. At college, she didn't know how to cope with the cafeteria options covered in sauce.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's 18 years of parenting, and they can't go to college.
So there's a great program out there for parents that are looking for a resource. It's called Love and Logic. And really the whole thing is, helping the child develop and go through the process of learning through mistakes, because it's how everybody learns. You have to fail in order to move through to that next thing.
So
right?
Does this mean that when my parents said when you don't want to eat your dinner, you can have it for breakfast, that maybe that was a good parenting method?
That was some tough love.
Tough love.
Sounds like you grew up in my house, Ben.
Oh, you don't like that for dinner? Well, you can have it for breakfast.
Eventually,
Good
you'll be
food
getting
doesn't go to
hungry.
waste.
And Ben, you lived in such a place where you could not walk down the street to the corner store and grab some change and take care of dinner. You were way out in the middle of nowhere. Which I was just in your hometown of Warner this weekend.
Oh.
Yes.
Hey, folks, we're going to take a quick break at Money on Tap. We'll be right back. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Also, podcast venues out there throughout the world. Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading. Thanks for subscribing. Money on Tap.
Hello, my name is John Ryder, a partner with Brayshaw Financial Group and one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. 10,000 Americans are turning 65 every day, and planning a successful retirement today is more challenging than ever, with a roller coaster stock market, political and economic uncertainty, and so many unknowns when it comes to the escalating costs of healthcare. Let us show you how we utilize the 3D method of investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. Using our experience, let us help you plan for a successful retirement. Now is the right time to start getting help. Give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, we have offices across the country. We would love the opportunity to meet with you. There's absolutely no cost or obligation to meet with us, and we welcome you to our offices. Call 855-226-8551 today.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben Brayshaw, John Ryder, and Seth Krussman.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. We also appreciate you out there, podcast listeners. Appreciate the downloads, appreciate the likes, and appreciate the subscriptions. You know what? We are going to get on topic du jour. And that is legacy planning. As advisors, we have all had clients that pass away. And I realize I kind of took that with a very happy, excited tone into the pass away part. I apologize.
Unusual.
That was very, very unintentional. We're having fun with this topic, apparently. To be honest, though, it is hard for us as advisors. And, we've built relationships. We really care about our clients. And sometimes we transcend the traditional client-advisor relationships when, we have folks that pass away, and it's never an easy time.
It's been a sad year, actually. John Ryder and I have had I think it's 5 clients have passed away between the two of us. And I had, 4 or 5 clients that passed away last year, too. And, we've had, with legacy planning and the conversation around this, people don't come in saying, I want to have an emotional experience, but when they're doing financial planning, invariably there's an end goal that we're trying to accomplish. And it's complicated. And, eventually all things lead to what's after you, what do you want to accomplish after that's all complete? And so that's always been a very difficult conversation for just about everybody out there. And sometimes there's just no easy way to cut it, and it becomes emotional. It becomes a conversation that, gets right to the heart. People have relationship problems with their children. They have relationship problems with, spouses.
And that often comes out, Ben, when things get near to end of life. Those emotions become real raw with people.
Yeah, and we had one client last year that was in a health scenario and so forth, and it turned out that he was being physically abused by a family member. And what ended up happening was we started receiving paperwork requests for beneficiary changes, and then some beneficiary change paperwork had already been done, even though we were still collecting it because he has to change beneficiaries.
Directly with the company, right?
Yeah,
so they weren't using our office.
And so, which is very unusual. I mean, we did everything for this client. And so, obviously we started having kind of some heightened scenarios. And then I ended up contacting his attorney just saying, hey, listen, some stuff's going on here. Please have a conversation with him. Because what happened was every time we had a conversation with him, we didn't know it at first, but the new beneficiary was on speakerphone listening to everything we had to say.
Wow.
So this person was getting thrown out of their wheelchair. We had no knowledge of this stuff. So it was discovered by a neighbor, and that situation has since been rectified. But we kept prodding people like, this is not normal behavior, and. But this stuff senior abuse and stuff like that, it happens so much more frequently, I think, than anyone really knows, because the limited amount of information that you get. Because people change beneficiaries near their death pretty often, wouldn't you say, John, Seth?
Sure. People start saying, "Oh, you know what? I need to update that," and that's definitely the truth. We're going to spend some time talking about this whole elder abuse phenomenon that is out there. It's I think it's been out there for years, but we're going to spend some time in a future show talking about that.
Well, I was saying that there's a lot of people that we sit down with that have wills and trusts, but little Johnny is going to be cared for by Aunt Susie, and at the end of the day, Johnny's now 45 years old.
Ben, that is absolutely correct. I just had a client the other day that brought in, this is actually his daughter that brought in the trust work, 1983. So things have changed. There have not been amendments. So you can talk about things that are, I mean, this guy now 93 years old. Think about how long ago that was and how old he was when he created that trust. It was a long time ago. But one of the things that we really want to spend time on in our show today is really talking about making things smooth for the generation that follows you. And that's really what legacy planning is all about. And sometimes we see where people have done an incredible job of really tightening things up and making sure things are in good place. Usually this tightening up is not done on someone's deathbed. It's really done proactively, well ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And so we want to talk about that because the difference between that, where things are taken care of well, things pass on to a trust, and things are paid evenly out and distributed out to beneficiaries in an equal manner, such a better scenario than when they are not. And we have all seen where things have been a horror show when someone passes away, and it's just an important thing to make sure that you have taken care of. So we're going to spend some time talking about some people that have made some good steps and some bad steps. You know, the first guy I thought that was of interest to me that I came across recently was a guy, you guys have all heard of Carvel's ice cream, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, okay, so he was kind of the guy that actually pioneered soft serve ice cream. They called him the soft serve ice cream man, which is funny because we all kind of take soft serve for granted now. But this is a man who invented soft serve. He established the first franchise business in America. He had a net worth of approximately $200 million when he died in 1990. And he used an estate planning attorney to prepare a will and an accompanying trust to provide for his family. And he also named 7 executors, all of whom had a financial stake in the game. But unfortunately, the 7 executors began a round of infighting that lasted for more than 7 years and cost millions. In the end, his widow passed away before the disputes could be settled and before she inherited the money. This is a sad example of poor estate planning and what it really cost the family in the long run. Think about the person he probably most wanted to protect in life was his widow. She's the one that ended up dying before anything got settled and money got distributed.
I think that's one of the things that's really frustrating is that we see, and it's not often, I don't want to throw attorneys under the bus, though that is kind of a opportunistic area to take advantage of.
And it's a lot of, it can be fun.
It can be fun. Okay, this shark jokes and so forth. But there's a certain number of attorneys who really drive complexity to estate planning that doesn't, in my opinion, I'm not a legal advisor, but in my opinion and experience, creates more of a problem in the estate than ever intended to, even though they're trying to help. And this is a great example. Like 7 executors. Like, why would you have 7 executors? You know,
it just doesn't make sense.
You get 7 people to agree on anything.
Right.
Good luck.
And we have people who don't make one child both your power of attorney and your healthcare directives. That could be a potential problem. Usually, you choose different people for those scenarios, and but updating your wills, updating your trusts, I've run into scenarios where families have had kind of a blind eye to things in their life. Where, John, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've had families who had a child who wasn't quite 100% in need of special needs, but really was somebody who had some major learning disabilities.
There's a difference there between them and the other kids.
Yeah, it's not this apparent, overarching scenario, but talking to somebody about having a special needs trust for their child that they're trying to raise up in a normal capacity, on every, and you're saying, you're like, so sometimes you have to work with people to bring reality to, even though you're trying to give them that normal life, acknowledging the fact that when you're not here, you may not be able to carve out something that appears or, seems 100% normal, and they might need help outside of you after you pass. That's a very difficult conversation. So, that's why this stuff gets so personal.
Another example to cite from people that we would all recognize would be a guy named Joe Robbie. Seth, why don't you take that one off?
I love it. We're going to talk about some football. He was the owner of the Miami Dolphins, for those of you that don't know his story. An attorney by education. He also had a pour-over will and a revocable trust. And he was survived by his wife and 9 children. That's 9 children.
9.
His big mistake was his
overall
$100 million. This is hard to believe that there's a big mistake with $100 million in assets, right? But that was his estate, was $100 million, was mostly illiquid. Not, you can't take an illiquid and turn it liquid in most circumstances quickly. That's what that means. So he owned an NFL football team, and most of that was tied up in the team in the stadium. And there just wasn't a lot of thought put into the impact that the estate taxes would have on the ownership of the team. And eventually the team had to be sold to pay the estate taxes. Good news, NFL did learn a valuable lesson through this, and it appears there's more attention being given to succession and liquidity issues in their ownership lineups. But, really because the league doesn't want to have to put something like this out there as a fire sale. They want certainly a lot more control over that. But never mind the family, but the league, right? It comes first in this scenario.
I saw that. But can you imagine that, though? The fact that because things got so tight, was that they actually had to get rid of the team, and usually something that they would be able to pass down in a family or whatever. But no, they had to get rid of it, and their whole lives changed really as a result. But not all of us here.
This is where these are the types of things. This is the perfect example of why an organization like a football team, or if you have an illiquid asset like a piece of real estate like this, because illiquid
business,
of any sort, this is where life insurance is the number one out clause for you, because it creates liquidity, and all you need to do is take the income from that asset and produce enough death benefit to cover your taxes, and your family can walk away with the stadium. I mean, with the team. Because the thing is
income producing team.
Yeah. So you're getting income from this. Use some of that income to totally take care of the taxes and be done with it. Everyone's wealthier from it. It's not like the death benefit is going to recoup the cost, hopefully, by far. I mean, the taxes on this thing is horrendous. So, sorry, I had to break in on that.
Well, I was just going to say that the truth of the whole matter is that none of us, or many of us, are not going to be rich and famous like Tom Carvel or like Joe Robbie. But that's not really the point.
Nothing could be truer, John, with you. Nothing could be true. You're not going to be
true. I am not. But the point is, whether you have a little money on this earth or you have a lot of money, when you pass away, you want to make sure things are covered. You don't want family members that are squabbling over your possessions or getting hit with so many taxes that most of your inheritance goes to the federal government. When you do proper legacy planning, and to do it right, you are really sending a message to your loved ones that you cared about them enough to take the time.
Or didn't.
To take the time to make lives a little bit easier. So that's what this show is all about. And we really want to take some time to talk about some things when it comes to legacy planning that we find really helpful when we're talking with our clients, to make sure that they're taking the proactive steps that they can take to help get their family on the right track.
Hey, I'm going to be proactive and take us on a break here, John. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551. We'll be right back. And in case you just miss us so much while we're gone, go check out our podcast. Have a listen. Have a download. We appreciate the likes, the shares, and the subscriptions out there in that podcast venue. Again, Money on Tap, 855-226-8551.
Hi, my name is Ben Brayshaw, one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. If you have questions when it comes to your retirement and are looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group. In today's volatile stock market, we can help you plan to find your successful retirement solution. Am I saving enough? Am I saving into the right places? Do my investments match my appetite for risk? Do I have a tax strategy that is going to help me keep more of what I earn? How can I maximize my Social Security income? If you are like most people, you are getting closer and closer to your retirement and may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. If you're in retirement, you may be wondering, am I maximizing my income while preserving my estate and caring for my family? We talk about all things financial in what we call three-dimensional investing, putting a plan around your financial future. If you feel that now is the time to start getting the answers to some of these questions for your own situation, give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, we have offices throughout New England and across the country. We would love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation just to meet with us, and we welcome you to our office. Call us at 855-226-8551.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben Brayshaw, John Ryder, and Seth Krussman.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters. That's where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. We have got the wrap-up coming up, folks. We're bringing it home with some critical items for you to take your pen and your pencil and your paper and start noting, because we're going to be talking about the checklist here for your legacy planning, things that you probably have out there and have thought about, but you really just need to pull that out, sit down, and quickly, because it's not a whole lot here, folks, but we can do a lot in a short amount of time with you here.
Yeah, what we're going to get into right now is we're really going to get into a solid checklist of things that you need to be aware of or be thinking about or have a conversation about. And there's probably more of this stuff that's relevant even when you think, hey, I don't know if that applies to me. You'd be shocked how much actually does. So you want to start it off, John?
Yeah, I think the first one is that makes it important is to catalog the possessions that you have. Now, many people will think this, I don't really have anything that's of worth. 9 times out of 10, we're talking with older folks, and they start talking about what they have, and they don't think it's worth much or anything. Well, I do have some. Well, I guess I do have some gold coins.
I do have a Johnny Satchel rookie card.
Yeah,
Bowman,
I do have
1948.
I do have a painting that may have some value. But those kind of physical possessions can actually be a lot more than people ever think. I have a friend of mine that cleans out barns. That's kind of his job. He cleans out barns and does estate sales and all that. The stuff he finds in these old New England barns are unbelievable. And they're able to turn what people think is trash really into a treasure, into actually large amounts of money. So it's pretty interesting there. But that's the case with many, many New Englanders, and I'm sure out in your way too, Seth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's you've spent a lifetime, believe it or not, kind of accumulating in different areas of your life. You've accumulated relationships, and just part of that happens to typically be things like, jewelry, or like you said, the painting and the thing that you may not have really thought about. Anyways, it's just a great practice. Go through, start writing stuff down.
Yeah. So I think the things that people don't think about, the easy one is, the wedding rings, right? Everyone kind of gets the wedding ring. Oh, I've got a diamond there. But then there's like the collectibles is the one piece that I think is really overlooked. I think about the baseball cards I've collected as a kid. I have no idea what those things are worth, right? I mean, I just
50 years from now, you might have some real stars.
Right.
In there, right?
Like I remember, I had a couple rookie cards of this or that or the other thing, and it might be worth $20 today, but it could be worth $20,000 50 years from now, like you said, John.
Yeah, and even one that you might think would be obvious would be a safe deposit box. Many times, people use safe deposit box. Usually the older generation is using safe deposit box more than perhaps the younger generation. But those are things to check. And they might have more than one. So they might have one at this bank and one at this bank and one at that bank. So,
one thing I've always told people is like, it's better to open up a joint safety deposit box with, your spouse, with your children, and so forth, because then it's, then whose possessions it is in question, is, may or may not be part of the estate. And those are things that, are things that you want to really think about inside of that. But art, jewelry, and antiques. Antiques are a big one.
They are, especially around here. I mean, they're big time. Houses are filled with these things.
And what's funny is a lot of people say, I have people walk in and they say, well, my kids are just going to, they all know what they're going to take, right? Well, they're all listening to what you say they're going to take. But when it comes down to breaking down the estate, all one person needs to say is, this stuff wasn't categorized in the estate, and then all of a sudden it's a big issue, right? So that's why going through this process is very, very, very important.
So again, it could be collectible cars, it could be art, it could be any kind of.
Hey, I'm going to throw one out there that is kind of snuck up on us, and more often than not, it seems to be this feature of people's homes when you go visit. Some people, it's the espresso machine, folks. Those things are awesome. That can cause a big problem because you know what? Everybody wants that espresso machine.
I don't care about the antique piano from 1876. I want that espresso machine.
Well, I mean, I remember in my grandfather's attic, there was this board that had all this inlaid it was like it turned into a checkerboard and a chessboard, and it was this enormous thing. It was made in India.
Oh, wow.
And it had all this inlaid jewels and stuff. It wasn't real jewels, but it was like, whatever it was. But it was extremely ornate. And my parents, got it as an inheritance. I mean, they took it to an antique dealer, and it was worth a ton of money. I mean, I think that paid for a vacation for our whole family. And they had no idea. The thing wasn't even in great shape. So
physical items can be huge, but I think one of the things that we concentrate on as financial advisors most of the time are those non-physical possessions, such as bank accounts, IRAs, brokerage accounts, 401ks that people have out there. Now, I will say this is one of the interesting things. Whenever we get an older couple in here, we ask them to bring in we ask them to bring in tax returns, insurance policies, and they find that they bring in sometimes shopping bags of this stuff, and we can all recall those people that bring in those shopping bags. You start pulling stuff out, and you have a MetLife policy from 1973. Or older.
I don't know if that's still in force. But we do. We have this whole forensic experience that kind of goes on in our office. And, John, I'm thinking about this one lady I've known a very long time. She called and so forth. I said, well, bring your stuff in. And I mean, she had 2 paper grocery bags of information that we were digging through. And, we think we've got everything. But I said to her, listen, we still need to do some research on these follow-up items. They're actually coming in a couple of weeks, and I just was thinking about how that is such a huge, overwhelming process because people don't manage assets well, and they forget what they buy or what they do, and that's a big problem.
I think MetLife came to mind for me because just 2 weeks ago, I was sitting with a client, with clients' kids. There's 4 kids, and the mom had passed away. And there was an old MetLife policy that she had. And so they had done some research and really could find nothing on it. And so we sat down and we waited for while we were meeting, but we had the phone on hold for about 45 minutes waiting for MetLife to finally answer the phone. It turns out there was an insurance policy. It wasn't worth a whole lot, but there's so many different things out there they didn't necessarily know about, and so it's just kind of an exploratory time for them. I think they're all a little disappointed when they heard that there's nothing there in the MetLife policy, but it's just not knowing,
I found, for one client, I found a $25,000 death benefit on an old Texaco gas card that they had.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What?
Hadn't been chewed up in fees?
Yeah. $25,000 death benefit attached to it.
Wow, they're not handing those out anymore, are they?
No, it was crazy.
Oh my gosh.
That was an interesting one. But the one thing about brokerage accounts and the non-physical possessions is that computer share statement that your parents or family get. Those are the old shares that are held at a transfer agent. And computer share is not the only one. There's another one, the
TD.
American Trust or something like that. There's another transfer agent that some people use. But anyways, those are the shares that are, someone dies, just giving a call to computer share, sending a death certificate, and just giving a couple social security numbers is worth it because, 50, 80 years ago, parents would buy 2 shares of GE. And, you add all the splits together and everything else, it turns out to be some money. I one time, the woman was in her 90s. This is going back 10 years ago. I brought in a number of GE certificates between the, 2 shares here, 5 shares here, 10 years here. I mean, with all the splits and so forth, she had over $2 million in GE stock at that time. I mean,
oh my gosh,
that was crazy.
She didn't even know it really. Yeah.
No, she didn't. She just collected
not
the
nearly
dividends.
as good, but also out there is some whole life policies will have some of those as well attached to them if you ever see those. It's not very often, but we'd see those. Yeah.
So the next item here is updating your beneficiary designations. If you haven't literally gone through and made a list of your assets and who the beneficiaries are, whether it's joint, transfer on death, if there is none, making a list of that and so forth. Having a list for whoever your executor is a tremendous help. We do that internally ourselves. We build a list. We actually ask people to give us information on all their assets. We put, second homes, timeshares, all of that stuff on their net asset report. And then the fourth item here is review of your life insurance needs. When we talked about this with the Miami Dolphins scenario, understand where your illiquidity is. And illiquidity isn't just in real estate. One of the things that is illiquid, and you'll never think of it this way, but it's your IRA. your retirement plan. When you pass away unexpectedly and there's $500,000 or $300,000 in your IRA and your 2 or 3 kids are going to inherit it, they inherit that as taxable income. So there's an opportunity that you can stretch it out and they can stretch it over a time period to reduce the tax burden and so forth. But some people will buy life insurance to offset the tax burden for that scenario.
Yeah, so they get a tax-free death benefit that comes in and takes care of those expenses.
But a lot of people don't look at their IRA or 401k as an illiquid asset, but it's illiquid because of that tax burden. So.
Yeah. I see a lot of next item is create a will, and I see more often than not folks that are just starting a planning process. This is one of the first questions we'll ask, and they don't have one. There's lots of ways to create those wills. Not all of them cost a lot of money, but it's one of those investments in giving some instruction and direction to what happens after you pass away that can save so much money in the outcome of probate around those assets. And ultimately, probate can be super costly if you don't know what that is. It gives access to basically every creditor and everybody that has a claim against you or your assets to come and get a chance to get a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Costly, and it takes a lot of time too. That can be tied up for a long time.
Yeah. Sometimes, some of the fear that a lot of people have with the will side, Seth, that is that they don't know who to go to. They don't know who's qualified for this. We have relationships with a lot of attorneys that we trust, we embrace. We know that they have a good, sound understanding of what needs to be done. I don't really encourage people to go to their real estate attorney to do their will and trust. If you really want to go to somebody who practices this for a living because they understand the updated current laws associated with that, because these laws do change, how things are work and so forth. So.
Yeah, and so that's also another item. If you already have a will, update it too.
And put it in a safe place that you know where it is. Not one where you're like, oh, I put it in a safe place, but I can't remember where that is. So, funeral expenses. When it comes to legacy planning, looking at your funeral expenses and the type of funeral you want is really, really important. I'll tell you that will create conflict, I think is the right word, inside a family who, dad wanted to be buried. Dad wanted to be cremated. Dad wanted to be buried or cremated and put in this place, not that place.
And these are last minute decisions that people are, someone passes away and all of a sudden the kids are getting together the day after or the day of, usually the day after, and they're trying to converge. Someone is coming in from Texas, coming in from Rhode Island, coming in from all over the country, trying to determine what's going on. They have no clear idea. There was nothing laid out, and all of a sudden maybe they're dealing with the mom who says, no, this is what he wanted, but no, Dad told me this. And so it can get really ugly in a time that it shouldn't be that way. It should be all clear and make sense for everyone.
So most people don't know that I want to have my ashes spread over Ben's house on a flyby. So without those instructions, nobody knows.
That's very nice, Seth. Very touching.
Very disturbing. Very disturbing, Seth. So if you're not Seth and you want to do something more normal, okay, laying this out and organizing this in a way that is clear and concise, especially in this time, because what I found is that, conflict inside settling or legacy planning and all of that stuff, it starts with even just checking off the simple upfront boxes. You know exactly what you want done. People say, oh, I don't care, do whatever you want. Well, but everyone has a different way of mourning. So if they know this is what you wanted, then they'll mourn along with that. But if they don't know what it is, one child might want to go to a gravestone, one might not. One might want to go see you in the ocean, one might not. And those are the things that you really need to be aware of. So one of we have a couple more here, but the organizing your finances we've talked a little bit about already is creating that list. And it's not just what you own, it's also your debts. Figure out what you have going on. One of the things that people do is they'll set stuff up on auto pay, right? And the spouse will be living in the home and they have it on auto pay, and all of a sudden they report the death and Social Security is popping into that account, and all of a sudden there's no more money. Things have been locked down, so no more income's coming in there. And a few months later, everyone's still mourning and trying to figure stuff out, and the lights go off or the cable stops working. And these are things that you really need to be aware of in understanding. Hey, listen, this is the account things are going to. This is how we pay things.
And this is why we really encourage folks to come together when they're doing their financial planning. Sometimes we'll have a the spouse. It might be the woman who decides, you know what, I handle all the stuff. My husband, he works, he does a great job providing the paycheck and all, but I'm the one that sends the money where it's going every week, and so he doesn't need to be involved. But you know what? We really believe it's so important for couples to be involved, because you don't want to have one person that's out of the loop when something happens, and that happens all the time.
And inside this organizing finances, if you're not making this a priority even today, this is something you really need to sit down with somebody, whether it's us or somebody else, is consolidate your accounts. Do not leave 30 accounts for your heirs, your wife, your husband to deal with. That is just a nightmare of problems. I mean, I have been through that scenario. We try to mitigate all of those things so that the transition process is smooth, and people, this is probably not the right word people are thinking about, but enjoy the time period that they have to mourn. Because if you're mourning in frustration, that makes it that much worse. Mm-hmm. And that's something that needs to really be considered as consolidating your accounts. We have the no judgment zone here. I think it's a great place to even talk about whether or not you can or can't consolidate even now, but maybe there's a point in time in the future that you can. So, and the last one?
Yeah, I think the last one is probably the most important thing. Maybe it covers just about everything, and that is have a family discussion. And especially as you're getting older in years, it becomes more and more important. But really have a family discussion about what are your wishes? What do you want to have happen when you're no longer here? And just, you can make it so much easier for your kids and for your grandkids just to take some time to really catalog everything that we talked about, from physical possessions to brokerage accounts to beneficiary designations. Just go over that with the family ahead of time. This is something that no one wants to do, but the thing is, it just makes life so much easier later on.
But in all transparency, John, and this is well and good if you're in a healthy, I mean, I don't know how many, define healthy and family environment, right? But I have seen this spun in a really bad way, and I have seen this go well. And that is definitely a difficult conversation. I've seen where parents have sat down with one or two children and shared it. And I've seen where parents have sat down with a kid who flipped. I mean, flipped in anger. Like, this is what you're going to do, and this is how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
So like for like charitable gifting, some people want to say, hey, listen, half of my estate's going to go to this charity and half's going to go to my kids. And the kids are like,
I hate that charity.
I'm not for that charity.
Yeah.
And you love that charity as much as you love me. And I will tell you that children will equate your love for them based on what and how you give. That is the final tag they'll do. And I have seen it over and over again. And they literally look at that as how you perceive them. And that's really a very complicated scenario and difficult for us, and puts everyone in the family, not just that, it puts us in a very difficult conversation because they can get mad at us because they don't know us that well, but it creates a huge division in families, huge. And that is a big problem. But, educating your kids on, listen, this is why we're gifting. This is a passionate thing. I've seen where religious people will give to a specific charity and they feel compelled by God to do this. Like, this is something that there's part of their life mission, and they need to educate their kids. We're doing this because we feel this is part of our life story.
And kids that are not of the same persuasion may think, what in the world are you doing that for? I have no idea why that's important.
But I will say the charity thing goes over better once you explain that versus it being a big surprise. So I think from a charitable side, that's something you should really, really do. So
I think it's been a very practical show. And, hopefully it's been a show that's helped each and every one of you maybe answer some questions. And whether you're the person that's really proactive, ready to get a move on things, or now just starting to have a conversation and thinking about what's important, or, maybe it's something that you just need to get on the forefront to start thinking about. But here's what we'd like to offer. We here at Money on Tap, Ben, John, myself, we're all Brayshaw Financial Group, and we can help you start planning for your future. We'd love nothing more than to help you to get a conversation going, a thoughtful conversation that will help you navigate through some of these questions and potentially some of the things that you just haven't even considered. If you're currently working with us and we haven't done a lot of proactive planning, yes, we manage your assets, and You may have protected yourself with some insurance and some of the other things that we've talked about and brought to the table and worked through. But maybe it's time for you to have that next conversation. We welcome that with you as well. Maybe you're not working with us and you're thinking you may need to start addressing some of those areas that you put off for quite a while. Give us a call. Let us help you put together a plan that can help you and your loved ones. And you may be thinking, well, this is going to cost me a lot of money. The truth is that our first meeting is to assess whether we can help you or not and what that might look like. And most of the time we can. And if we can help, we'll tell you, what the costs will look like for you as well. Much of the time, the costs are already kind of baked into, something like insurance or investment services that we provide. Either way, we welcome that opportunity with you. Hopefully you have a great week. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Again, you've been listening to Money on Tap. We appreciate you spending some time with us here today. Thanks a lot.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.